Hello everybody, this is Brian with ZimCo Survival, and today I'm doing a quick 1-year update for you guys on the Mora Bushcraft Black. I have used this as my everyday knife now for about a year, and this knife, it's grown on me. I really do like it. I liked it when I bought it, but it has a couple of quirks to it that I'm not quite a fan of. So after a year of using this a lot, I will go ahead and do an update for you guys and let you know my final opinions on the knife. So let me go ahead and start out with the sheath, as always. It's your standard Mora sheath, nothing particularly fancy about it. I did have the survival version, but I took it off because it was just getting in the way. I didn't really like that too much, so I just snapped it off. It is what it is. The one thing that I did not like about the sheath, really didn't like, after a little while of use, was the belt loop system they put on here. Basically, it had interchangeable belt loops. You stuck it down in there, snapped it on, and you had this plastic dangler piece, and it would kind of rotate on that. I didn't like it too much because it was really stiff. I do like danglers, but I didn't like that dangler, if that makes sense. Let me go ahead and take my glasses off here. So I took it off because I really didn't like it. It was more of a nuisance. It was too stiff for me. It didn't rotate smoothly. It would go up like this and then stay like that, and it was annoying. So I took it off, added some paracord length to it, and kind of turned it into a heavy neck knife, if you will. Just hang it over my neck whenever I went out to use it. So that's what I ended up doing. That was a problem for me with this the sheath, was just that dangler piece and how stiff it was. Now let me go ahead and get to the knife. The knife performs very, very well. Let's see if I can show it to you here. That's what it looks like after a year. I did drill the hole for the lanyard. And that's the spine. Let's see if I can get it focused for you. Knife itself is really good. I really do enjoy it. The handle is still extremely comfortable. I do really like that palm swell that it's got here. If you can see how wide it is, and it's in the perfect spot. So when you hold it, it really fills up this portion of your hand very well and gives you a nice firm grip on it. The handle material itself, it's kind of a rubberized material. It is still extremely comfortable to use. I don't feel like my hand is going to slip off of it at all, even when it's really, really wet. And I've done some work out in the rain with this knife, and I was really surprised at just how well it performed as far as staying in my hand and feeling comfortable and safe using it that way in the rain with my hand soaking wet and the handle soaking wet. It just performed very well. So I have no complaints about the handle itself. My complaint when doing the knife is with this piece right here. It doesn't have a large enough belly. I was wondering if that would be a problem when I bought it. And it does perform all right, but when you really want to get in and do those spooned out cuts, it's really hard to do with such a shallow belly on it. It can be done, but as you can see, it almost has no belly. It's like there's pretty much nothing there for you to use to scoop out material. So if you're doing stuff like spoons and forks and bowls and things of that nature, this of course is not going to be a good knife for that. I do a lot of carving work, so for me, I wanted something with a bit more functionality in that area. It's still a great knife. It's a good all-around camp knife. It's going to make a feather stick like nothing else. It's just a good all-around knife, but for me, it didn't quite tick the marks that I wanted. But Mora didn't really make a knife, kind of a general-purpose camping knife that also had a good belly on it until recently when they made the Mora Kansbol. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up one of those and play around with it for a while and then do a review on it. Hopefully it will actually kind of give me what I'm looking for, which it looks like it does based on the other reviews that I've read and the pictures, because it seems to have a steeper belly on it, which would be good for me. But as far as the knife holding up, and not just my opinion on what it did or didn't do for me, as far as how well this knife actually held up to use, like I said, this has been my everyday knife, and I don't know how well you guys can tell it, but it has been used heavily. I mean, it is a heavily used knife, and you can see where I damaged it batoning there, right there. I mean, this thing has been used and abused. It's a heavy use knife. This was not something that I stuck in the sheath and just kind of left on the counter. This thing has been taken out in the woods every time I go out, and it has been used for a lot of stuff. So as far as its capabilities go, the blade is not damaged at all. I batoned through some pretty nasty wood with it not too long ago, where it actually had it looked like it had a straight grain, and on the outer edges it did, but the center of that wood, and I mean, it wasn't thick, it was probably about like that, you know, it was well within the range of batoning with this knife. So I'd say about 2 inches, and on the outer edges it looked like a nice easy split. But as soon as I got into that wood and I got about 1/3 of the way down, the interior core of that twisted and just spiraled on me. So I'm sitting there trying to hammer the Mora through it, thinking, you know, why is it taking so long? This is an easy wood to split. It was a cherry that was just recently cut, so it wasn't dried out and aged. And I'm sitting here thinking, how come it's taking so long for me to get through this spot? And finally, when the Mora got through a little bit deeper and the wood started to separate more on the top, I looked down and I noticed the Mora's blade had bent, and that it was trying to follow that curve that the wood had in it, the interior core of the wood. And at that point, I was too far through to pull the Mora out of it. It had clamped onto the Mora pretty tightly. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go all the way through with it, and if it breaks, then I'll know what the limitations are. So I went ahead and continued going through it, and went through it just fine. After that, you know, as soon as it really started to mushroom up on top, it finished it off pretty well. But I pulled out the Mora thinking that it was going to be bent, and it is dead straight. I don't know how well you guys can see it. Let me see if I can get it. There you go. You should be able to see it. It is dead straight. So the metal bent and then came right back as soon as the pressure was gone. So I really like that fact. I've had knives that have gone through stuff like that before, and they come out with kind of a permanent bend in them. And this one did very, very well. I didn't see any bending to it. It seems to be perfectly straight after that. So I'm very happy with that. One thing that I did to this knife is I put a true Scandi on it. I don't know how we're going to be able to see it, but you can see that there is no MicroBevel along it anymore. I'm a fan of true Scandis, and the MicroBevel, while it does have a purpose and it will prevent the blade from the edge from getting damaged through heavy use like impact use, batoning, things like that, I rarely use it for that. As I said, I do use it, but rarely, and typically only with really small wood, 2 inches or less, so nothing major. And softer wood, you know, wood that hasn't been aged and left out forever. If I'm going to do something like that, I'm just going to grab my BK7. I'm not going to use a Mora for that. But that's probably one of the key things that I did, was I took that second bevel off of it and just made it a true Scandi. So it is a phenomenal carver right now, if it wasn't for the fact that it has such a shallow belly on it, so I really can't get in and scoop out material the way I would like. But other than that, it's still a phenomenal knife. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to buy the Kansbol, which I actually have shipping to me as we speak, and play around with that for 2 or 3 months and do a video on it, and kind of let you guys know what I think of that one, and probably just kind of take this knife and give it a rest for a little bit. I'll pull it out from time to time just to make sure it's still good, and, you know, clean it up, make sure it's still a usable knife, because the Bushcraft Black is still a great knife. But there you have it. Essentially, after a full year of use, this knife shows no serious wear and tear on it. It's all cosmetic, nothing major. As I like to say, it gives it character. You know, it's a used knife, and it doesn't need to look brand new after it's been used. So for me, I don't mind that the paint or the bluing is scratched up and missing on the blade and everything else, because it gives it character. It makes it, you know, it's a used knife and people will know it. So I don't mind that at all. Some people want their knives to look brand new after a year, and that's, in my opinion, then you didn't use it enough. If it looks brand new after a year of using it, you didn't use it enough. But there you have it. My overall opinion on this, even with all the new Moras coming out, the Mora Garberg, the Mora Kansbol. Now, I don't have the Mora Kansbol, so I can't attest to that. I'm going to do it based on the knives that I have personally used myself. The Mora Companion, the Garberg, the Bushcraft Black. Those are the ones that I'm going to actually base it off of. And if I still had to buy a knife, I would buy this knife if I didn't already have it, because in my opinion it is a great all-around purpose camp knife. Now again, I don't have the Kansbol, so hopefully you'll see a review on that soon enough, but if I had to choose between any of the other Moras, I would still buy this. I mean the Garberg is a good knife, don't get me wrong. I just think it's a bit expensive. And I know a lot of people say that, oh, the Garberg is too expensive, and a lot of other people say, well, it's a great knife. It is a great knife, and I'm not going to knock that fact, and it is a full tang knife. But in my opinion, if you put the Bushcraft Black side by side with the Garberg, the Bushcraft Black will perform just as well at half the price. Like I said, I put this knife through hell, and it's still just fine. So in my opinion, the full tang nature of the Garberg isn't necessary for a Mora. For me, it more falls into the I don't know how to describe it. It falls into that category where people want full tang for every knife, even though it doesn't necessarily need to be a full tang. Now, this one right here, of course, is the Bushcraft Orange. This is the knife that I actually gave to my brother. It used to be my wife's knife, but I gave it to him so that he would have a good knife. Now, he hasn't used it as much as I've used mine, so it's still kind of shiny, but that gives you the idea. It doesn't matter, even if you buy the orange version, you're still getting a great quality knife at a good price. The one thing that I will say is that the price of the Bushcraft Blacks with the survival sheaths has skyrocketed. They're sitting at about 60 bucks. So you're paying essentially an extra $30 to have a ferro rod on one side and a little sharpener on the sheath, and in my opinion that's ridiculous. I'm going to say shame on Mora for that one, because the rod that comes with it is not a $30 rod, and the sharpener that comes with it is not a $30 sharpener. In my opinion, that is price gouging. So do not, if you do decide to pick one of these up, do not buy the survival version. You'll be much better off buying an individual ferro rod and an individual sharpener. You'll save yourself a lot of money and get two dedicated tools that are going to be much better than the ones that come with the sheath. But there you have it. After a year of use, I am still going to give this thing a 5 out of 5. It is a fantastic tool, and I highly recommend that you go ahead and pick one up if you're still looking for a high carbon knife in the Mora family. Now, again, I haven't tried the Kansbol. I've heard really good things about it, but since I've never used it, I'm not going to recommend you buy it until I do. So I apologize for that. Like I said, hopefully in a couple of months you'll see a video on it. But as of right now, with the knives that I do own, this is still my favorite all-around camp knife by far. It has lived through everything I've thrown at it and more, and no damage whatsoever to it. It still takes a razor sharp edge and holds it for a long time. No problems whatsoever with the knife. So please, if you are looking for a Mora knife, go ahead and pick up the Bushcraft Black. You will not be disappointed. But thank you guys for watching. As always, if you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And have a good night. Bye-bye.